In this movie, I'll introduce you to the puppet warp command. If you're working along with me, go ahead and click on that original layer there that represents the extracted falcon. And let's create a copy of it by pressing Ctrl-Alt-J or Command-Option-J on a Mac. And I'll call this new layer Wings and click OK. The next thing you want to do before you launch into Puppet Warp is convert the layer to a smart object, because that's going to give you way more flexibility and you'll be able to come back and revise your settings later. And of course, to do that, you right-click inside the image window with the rectangular marquee and choose Convert to Smart Object. That goes ahead and places both the image itself and its vector mask into that smart object, by the way. And that also permits you to edit both the image and its mask in sync with each other. Now go up to the Edit menu and choose Puppet Warp. And you'll initially be confronted by this mesh, which represents a kind of distortion matrix. I don't find it to be all that helpful, and I think it gets in the way when you're editing. And if you agree, then you can turn off the Show Mesh checkbox up here in the options bar. Now notice how things work. When you're working inside the Puppet Warp mode, you're setting pins. So the cursor appears as a tack, and you click in order to add a pin to the image. If you have just one pin and you move it around, then you're going to move the entire layer. So I'll go ahead and press Ctrl-Z or Command-Z on the Mac to undo that change. You have exactly one level of undo while you're working inside the Puppet Warp mode, by the way. If you were to set another point like this, and then you started dragging it around, the deselected point is going to be locked down, and then you'll rotate the image around that point. I'll go ahead and press Ctrl-Z or Command-Z on the Mac to undo that change as well. Then, if you have 3 pins and you drag one of them around, notice that you're stretching the image with respect to these 2 points that are locked down, and everything that's not locked down over here on the left side of the bird moves as well. All right, I'm not looking to do any of this. I just want to show you how things work. So the idea is, if you don't want something to move, you need to lock it down. So both the stuff that you want to change and the stuff that you want to leave alone need to have pins in them. I'm going to get rid of the pins I've created so far. And you can do that in one of 2 ways. You can press the Alt key or the Option key on a Mac, in which case when you hover over a pin, your cursor changes to a little pair of scissors and then you click in order to delete the pin. Or you can right-click into Puppet Warp mode and choose Remove All Pins to get rid of everything you've done so far. All right, I want to make sure that the falcon's eyes remain nice and sharp even after I get done making some edits. So I'm going to click inside of each eye to lock it down, and also click on a beak to set a point there. And if you end up getting this warning that tells you you're trying to set one pin too closely to another, for now, just click OK. I'll explain more about what that means in a future movie. But just click OK and click to set a point farther down the beak like so. All right, now I'll zoom out a little bit, and I'm now going to set points at the base of the wings, like so, both at the top and the bottom of each wing. And then I'm going to set a couple of points at his knees here in order to lock them down. And then finally, I'll zoom out a little bit and set a point right about there inside of the wing, and set another point closer to the tip. And then I'll set a point here, and another one closer to the tip of the left-hand wing. All right, now I'll zoom out a little more so I can take in more of my image at a time. And I'll grab this guy right there, and I'll drag him down like so. And notice that everything that's deselected is not moving. So I'm only moving this one portion of the image. So I have a unique degree of control over how I'm distorting this layer. All right, now I'll go ahead and drag this guy down to about here as well. And I might take things down a little farther here on both sides of the bird, like so. And if you like, you can also adjust these middle points in the wings in order to give them a little more bend. Then when you're done, go ahead and press the Enter key or the Return key on the Mac in order to escape the Puppet Warp mode and apply Puppet Warp as a smart filter here inside the Layers panel. Now you do have the option of adding a filter mask, which you might think would be very handy for painting away the stuff that you don't want to see move. For example, in the bird's head. But you're better off locking that stuff down, because if you paint it away, you're going to have weird, either harsh or soft, gradual transitions, neither of which make any sense. So if you don't need a filter mask, it's always a good idea just to right-click on it and choose Delete Filter Mask to reduce clutter inside the Layers panel. And then finally, my rectangular marquee tool is still active, so I'll press the 7 key in order to reduce the opacity of this layer to 70%. And that, folks, is how you take advantage of the puppet warp mode here inside Photoshop.